How are you, ladies and gentlemen? It is Wednesday, the best day of the week, where we feature your Bulls hot takes on this channel. Feel free to drop any hot takes you might have for next week's video, or who knows, I may just do a double feature today. We'll have to wait and see. Don't forget, the Bulls will be taking on the Cavs tonight. I'll have a live group chat for that as always. Hopefully, the Bulls will be able to make it 3 straight wins, but let's dive into your takes, shall we? So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Let's start us off with our first hot take, which comes to us from Cameras We're On. Can you use this hot take in your video tomorrow? Yes, I can. Zach LaVine will finish top 10 in MVP votes next year. Now, when I initially read this, I thought you were going to say that it was going to be for this year, and that would have been an easy reaction, which is a no, partly because there's so much competition for the MVP award this season with some of the performances that we've seen from guys that they've been putting up, but also because MVP awards are generally determined by a team's record that said MVP candidate plays on, and obviously the Bulls are not in that kind of position where it would warrant Zach LaVine getting MVP votes. But for next year, I mean, it's dependent on so many factors. Is he going to maintain the same level of performance he has been putting up this season? Will he improve even further? What other pieces are being added to the team? I mean, if the Bulls get another star player, which I don't think is likely unless they could bring, have a big run towards the end of the season, but other pieces added to this team could shadow Zach LaVine's credit for the team and their overall success. And then finally, again, success. How successful are the Bulls going to be next season? If they make a huge leap in the standings, say finishing top 3 in the East, and Zach is the main guy that leads them there, I mean, that's a legitimate case for being an MVP candidate. Maybe not necessarily winning the MVP, but top 10? Yeah, absolutely. Although, do they even reveal the votes all the way down to top 10? I thought it was generally top 5, but either way, this take is dependent on so many factors, so it's really hard to say. I wouldn't say this is a ridiculous take because so many things can change from one season to the next. Next up, man, I don't want to butcher that name, so I'll refrain for now. But the hot take is Marko Simonivic will develop into a Vucevic type player. So I actually received another hot take similar to this one, but I could not find it when going through the comments, so apologies to whoever left this one. But it was that Marko would finish top 3 in the Rookie of the Year voting next season. Okay, so a bit of a disclaimer. I'll admit, I have not seen much of Marko play overseas. A few highlights here and there, looking at his stats in his professional league, and that's really about it. But what I do struggle to understand is why so many Bulls fans are so high on this kid, as if he's going to be the Bulls' savior. I've heard so many people say, well, we don't really need Lauri anymore because Marko is basically the same player but more athletic and he's going to be better than him. Now, one thing I think is important to clear up for Bulls fans. The Bulls own the draft rights to Marko Simonivic. It's very possible that he may never play a game in the NBA. There are a lot of draft and stash players from overseas that teams never end up bringing over to play because they never quite become NBA ready. And hopefully Marko will eventually be brought over, but it's possible he might not make an appearance in a Bulls uniform next season. It might be a couple more seasons before we see them, if at all. It all depends on the Bulls' roster spots, their salary constraints, and guys, I like the optimism, but this isn't like a Nikola or Ricky Rubio or even a Tomas Satoransky for that matter, who were drafted and stashed players, and they were playing in some of the best professional leagues in Europe. And where some of the and not just the best professional leagues in Europe, they were some of the best players in their league. Marko is a great player in his league he plays with overseas, but by no means is he an MVP type candidate of that league or putting up insane numbers like some of these other players have. I mean, that's why he was drafted in the 2nd round. I think a lot of fans are assuming because Arturas made this pick, this is going to be the next steal of the draft, like Arturas made with Nikola Jokic in the 2nd round. Obviously, I would love that, and I hope I'm wrong in that regard. I would love for this guy to be one of those 2nd round picks that becomes a star in the NBA. But guys, those are so few and far between. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm thinking of guys like Jokic, Draymond Green, Carlos Boozer. Most 2nd round picks end up being role players or play very limited minutes at best in the NBA, and some don't even last in the league for more than 2 years. So sorry, that was a bit of a rant, but I guess my response to all of that is, hot takes regarding Simonivic. I mean, developing into a Vooch type player, I mean, that's a very, very big stretch. First of all, Simonovic has, he has to bulk up quite a bit. Vuce has a good 40 pounds on him. You're talking about a second-round pick overseas turning into an all-star big man that is a double-double machine and can put up 25 and 10 on a nightly basis. I'm just not really seeing it. Next up, this one I got a kick out of because it was actually 3 hot take responses all in a row, and this was on the Discord. The first one is Lauri, only second in plus minus when Bulls win. Previous game, he's been best for the team. Vuce plus 16, Lauri plus 14 in a game. This isn't really a hot take, it's more of just a statement of fact. Then you have a response, Lauri is wasting his potential here in Chicago, to then Lauri has no potential. Well, first of all, I don't think it's fair to say that Lauri has no potential. I actually think he still has potential, but he's just not in the right situation with the Bulls, especially after the Bulls traded for Vucevic. I also do think it's a confidence thing for Lauri Markkanen as well, knowing he's playing in a contract year, and that's getting a bit to him, and then getting benched after literally starting every game in his career. It's obvious Lauri has not been the same player that he was once advertised in his first 2 seasons. All of that being said, though, I do still think the potential is there. The potential we once did see in his first 2 seasons, and he has shown some flashes of that every now and then this season. The way that he actually started out the year before getting injured, he was very strong. He was scoring at a very efficient rate. He was actually playing some decent defense, but ever since then, coming back from that injury, he has just really not been the same player. And I do think a lot of that is just his general fit with the roster. I mean, I think I said it in my last video when talking about Markkanen's future with the Bulls. The Bulls have to prioritize defense going into this offseason, and Lauri has been a liability on defense. And normally I would say, well, he makes up for it on offense, but he really hasn't recently, and the Bulls already have a strong offensive team and players who are consistent on that end of the floor. Guys like Zach LaVine, Vucevic, Coby White, although maybe not as consistent, but he's a decent offensive player. So in short, I disagree that Lauri has no potential, but I do agree with the take that Chicago is probably wasting his potential, and it's not like they're doing it on purpose. I just feel it's becoming more and more clear that he doesn't fit with this team long term based on how the roster is currently constructed. Next up, we've got Brandy stretches once again. No idea what that is about. The Bulls will go on the longest winning streak without LaVine. Well, it shouldn't be too hard to do that, given the Bulls' longest win streak this season is 3. They've already won 2 in a row without him, and the Bulls have the Cavs tonight and then the Hornets tomorrow, so it's definitely possible. I mean, you never really know with this Bulls team. But yeah, I mean, I hope the Bulls can take out the Cavs tonight, given they just did that the other night, and because it's the Cavs, they're a bad team, and hopefully they'll also be able to beat the Hornets and take advantage of a team that is without their 2 best players in Gordon Hayward and LaMelo Ball. So by tomorrow night, we'll know if this hot take ends up being true. But yeah, I agree. The Bulls could go on their longest winning streak without LaVine. I wouldn't say that's because, being without LaVine, they're better and can go on a longer winning streak because he's off the team. But no, but rather they have already 2 wins in a row and they're playing against 2 easier teams coming up. Next up, we've got Figueroa. Zach LaVine will be an all-star captain. I would say this is very unlikely. I mean, not unless the Bulls, or I guess I should say, even if he's not with the Bulls, really any team he ends up being on throughout his career, but not unless he's the #1 guy on his team and leads them to one of the best records in the league. Will he be able to get enough votes to be a highest vote getter in his conference to be an all-star captain? I don't see that happening. I do think LaVine will make more all-star games in his career, but an all-star captain? No, very unlikely. Next up, we have Kyrov. Patrick Williams next year with a full offseason will be averaging 15 points per game. I like this hot take because, much better than some of the other ones that I've seen from Patrick Williams for next season. I've had some takes in the past weeks or so that, said that Patrick Williams will average over 20 points per game next season, which just isn't realistic at all. I don't doubt that he will be able to get there at some point in his career, but for next season, he's not going to make up that kind of leap from averaging 9 points per game to just over 20 in one season. That's not practical. But 15, yeah, I can get behind that. Even 15 is a bit of a leap. I would say he's likely likely going to average somewhere in the 12 to 14 points per game range next season. Like you said, the key here is him actually having a full off season with hopefully a summer league, a full training camp that can really get him prepared for next season, as opposed to this past off season where he was drafted by the Bulls and literally started his first regular season NBA game 1 month later. Let's do one more. This one is from Dre Williams. Coby will be the starting point guard for the rest of the season. Well, if he plays the way that he has been, yeah, he definitely will remain the starting point guard. I mean, Billy Donovan could have brought Satoransky back into the starting lineup after he was out for that one game due to illness, which was how Coby was inserted back into the starting lineup. And Donovan chose to stick with Coby. If Coby continues to show consistency that he has been doing and being an effective playmaker and passer and making smart decisions on the court when running the offense, then yeah, he should start over Satoransky. He is a better player than Satoransky. I don't think that's ever been disputed. It was more the fact that Sato was better able to run the offense and was smarter on the court, especially in crunch time. But Coby White is a more talented player than Tomas Satoransky, so as long as he's doing his job effectively. And also, he's been playing decent defense recently in the past few games. So yeah, in my view, he's going to keep starting. And I would say that that's likely going to be the case even when LaVine comes back, as I know some people have been saying, that will likely change once Zach LaVine comes back because the Bulls need a playmaker with LaVine on the court than someone like Coby. But I disagree. If Coby can continue to play the way that he has been, he will start. If not, and he goes back to what we were seeing that led to him being benched in the first place, then yeah, you'll likely see Satoransky be inserted back into the starting lineup. Okay, I'll end it there for now, guys. Feel free to leave any hot takes you have in the below comments or in the Discord. We have a separate hot takes channel there. Link to the Discord is in the description. It is entirely free to join. Don't forget the Bulls will be taking on the Cavs, looking to make it 3 straight wins. I'll have a live game chat here on the channel as well as on the Discord. Be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.